Okay, guys, I think it's time to start. Welcome from Poland. Um, Even though I should say it is from Poland, but the presentation is going to be about what's happening outside of the boundaries of Poland. My name is Gosia Jakubik, and I'm here just to present the speaker of this session. And the speaker of this session is Dariusz Juba, or Darek, who is leading a major project of building a lean foundry, a foundry in Macedonia. Here is his story.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I can't see you, so I'm talking to my computer, so I feel a little bit uncomfortable, but let's say I hope you can hear me well. So as Gosia said, I'm running project not a project now, it's a business in Macedonia that started back in 2015 as a greenfield. And I tried to put a few slides about how we did it, how we are building basically a lean business in extremely difficult environment, and how we go with the resources we have in the situations we have found ourselves during COVID and after COVID. All right, so let's start. So first, why Lean Foundry? So how the project started and an entire idea how it started. Basically, I got money from the investor who asked me to build a foundry. And he said, okay, so I have to turn this money into more money. But to do that in the foundry business, we need to focus on two things. It's basically productivity and economies of scale. Economies of scale we couldn't affect because that limits, your budget is limiting you. So I could only affect productivity. And to be really productive in this business, you have to be adaptable and efficient. And this is how we decided to go on the, let's say, lean path. This is how we decided about Lean Foundry. And you look at the few books, you have some experience, and you say, okay, how hard it can be. Well, it turned out it was pretty hard. I started from an adaptation of the John Shook model. And when I realized how much work is there, I really got a little bit scared. Anyway, I started doing the project. It's back then, I think it's 2015 picture from. We were just two in the company, but the company grew to 150 people very fast. So it was really fast-paced environment. And let's say from the beginning, I said, okay, there's a lot of work. At one stage, I think it was 2016, but I'm not sure for 100%. I was really overloaded. As you can see, there's a lot of points to tackle. You have to build a factory, you have to build the cells, you have to build a team, and you want to be lean. I mean, that was a little bit overwhelming. And I remember there was one conference also in Poland where Masaki Mai was present, and I literally asked him, where do I start? Because I cannot start for so many topics. And back then he told me something what I took to my heart and says, okay, just start from small improvements. Don't do anything else, just do small improvements. And this is what I did. So already in 2016, you see here one of our first improvements. Remember, back then was just office. We didn't have yet factory. Nothing was done yet. So even in the office, we started learning and teaching about what are improvements, what does it mean waste, what does it mean making things easier, and so on and so on. And this is one of examples from 2016. What is interesting, we changed the office once already. We changed a lot of things, but this improvement is still with us. So return on investment is endless. Simple thing, but it shows how we think. I mean, we don't do big improvements. We try to get very, very small ones, but many of them. So we started doing this, okay? And as you see here, I was digging into my computer, into the pictures, trying to understand what we really did. And that's a picture from 2017. And on the top, you see the state of the factory. So you see unpacked equipment still being there, the construction ongoing. And already in this year, we were talking to Gosia and Lean Enterprise Institute. We asked them for help. I realized there's no way I can handle this by myself. And I needed somebody who will help me to guide the team. So this is a picture from the construction site. Already back then, we got everyone and we tried to explain what is lean and how to go about lean. And back then, we also identified, our priorities, because as you can imagine, when you build a factory of this size, it's fairly big object, industrial class. You have a lot of things to do, so you need to stay focused. And we set up kind of priorities, general priorities for us. We said, okay, we need to respect our people, because without people, nothing will really happen. And we have to make sure we are all safe. This is heavy industry. Also, the construction was complicated, not too dangerous, but there was a lot of risk, so we had to handle that. So we focused on respect and safety. And then we said, okay, the next goes quality, on-time delivery, and ease of doing business. And why we did that is it really helped us to make a lot of decisions, because if you think about it, this is, I think, very often the lean, what you read in between the lines in the books of lean is a lot about values, it's a lot about culture, but that is actually created in some very tiny decisions. And at the moment you overrule decision, let's say, to get more money and to at the cost of safety, you're actually killing your lean journey. At least this is what I felt. And I always said, okay, we are not gonna never compromise respect for people over quality. We need to first respect our people. We need to make sure they are safe. Then there is a chance they will build the quality products. When we have quality products, we have a chance to be on time. And when we have quality products and we deliver them on time, it's easy for our customers to work with us. And if it's easy, our price, no matter what it is, it becomes competitive. And of course, we had to do all of that at the minimum cost. That goes without saying. And back then, I thought I have to focus on 5S, on dummies is basically our Kaizen Teian, on problem solving. I have to focus on delivering on volume on time, and on developing standard methods, general standardization. So fairly easy, you would think, but when you go into details, it was a hell. We started operations at the end of 2019, and if you remember, I think beginning of 2020, COVID started. So perfect timing. It was not only that our operations were not ready, and we had to really build them as we go, but on top of that, we got all the difficulties of COVID, shortages of labor, and a lot of restrictions, and so on, so on. So when we started our operations, we really found ourselves in hell, and particularly myself as a CEO of the company. You report to shareholder, you need to bring the value, you have to make sure that the project is implemented, it's done. And all in 2020 and 2021, what I had was, raw material prices increase, energy, completely messed up supply chain. There was none of stability. Every day was different, and we couldn't even get a hold of it. Even if we put a lot of cash on the business, we wouldn't change that. So it was really, really difficult. In the same time, we are building our management team, our middle management team. We have no control over the process. It was vicious cycle, chaos, and literally hell. And when I look at, so this is on the business side, but when I look at also our performance, let's say in terms of lean, I think we are quite good on respect. Just to give you example, project was put on hold for a year from some decisions of the government because of the permits and so on. It's a long story. And the shareholder and myself, we decided that we are going to keep all the people for all that time, mostly because we said, okay, if we let them go now, we can talk about respect in the future, but we will never get it. And it really paid, it served us well, this decision. I remember it was expensive, but it was worth doing. Also on safety, the entire construction site went, it's a big object, a lot of heavy items, a lot of, let's say, difficult installations, a lot of people working together. And we went through the entire construction site without any major accident. We had some first aid cases, of course. I mean, that was almost impossible to avoid. But in general, the safety was on fairly good level. Regarding 5S, Kaizen, problem solving, delivery on time, and standardization, we were really nowhere. And we were going downwards, and that was a little bit scary. And me, as a general manager of the business, I was really outnumbered by the problems. That was an extremely difficult situation for me, also for the management team. But we said, okay, we don't want to give up, and that was kind of we knew this, that we are not going to give up on lean, but something had to change. Okay, and so back then I remember we said, okay, what is really wrong? What we are doing wrong that we don't get good results in lean? And what we realize is basically that when the problems come to us as a managers, the middle management, and let's say the leadership team of the company, usually it was too late. That means, you had to either spend a lot of time and resources to solve the problem, or simply the problem was unsolvable. It was too late, something broke, and okay, we had to just fix it by paying for it. And that was really disastrous. So my first impression was that I had I have many big problems. But when I started digging, I realized that I actually have thousands of very, very tiny problems. That was one of my finding, that most of the problems that end up on my desk could have been solved by somebody somewhere. Another thing which I, let's say, got to my mind, and you probably have heard that many times, that without standards there can be no improvement, which is absolutely true. But also without ownership there is no improvement. And this is something which we struggled a little bit in Macedonia, and also partly historically. This is also post-communistic country, like Poland was. The ownership of your own work was not always the case. So here we struggle a little bit. Even in Macedonia, there's kind of a saying, "Czysta robota," I'm not responsible for anything. I just am here, I do my job, and I go home. And we realized that we have a big problem with that. And last but not least, I also realized that making the changes, so making improvements, is much harder than actually I thought. Because I was asking my people, okay, go and improve what we have already. But that was becoming, let's say, I kind of opened the can of worms with it. Because every improvement was a change, and that change was generating a lot of other changes. And without having a good system in place, it's basically exploding in your hands. So let's say 3 big obvious things you would think, but when you are in the middle of the, let's say, of a fight to every day to build the Foundry, it's you tend to forget about these things. So 3 big revelations, and then after them, I decided, okay, I really need to do something differently. And one of the things I want to do is basically to build kind of a system, I didn't know what it could be, to remove all these tiny problems. And in Lean, you have problem solving. This is not about problem solving. This is about really getting rid of the small, messy, small, and let's say very annoying, or very the small items that blocks the flow, that blocks your work. And we have plenty of them. And I realized that if I do that, instead of asking my people to improve, I just give them the tool so they can solve their problems, I will help them to own the process, so the ownership will go better. I will also, they will have the chance to decide, and also they will have if the system works well, they will be able to do it on the go. So that was something that I started building back then. I don't remember which year it was, but it was around 2020 and beginning of 2021. So back then I paired with one of the programmers. He knew how to build the software. I knew what I want. And we started developing system that we are using today in the Foundry. We call this Lean Shaman. And basically what we did, and I think that is something that not so many companies do, at least where I did my research, I couldn't find the evidence of that. That in many cases, and that was also the case for us at the beginning, we were looking for, improvements. I was looking, okay, how do I eliminate waste? How do I gain time? How do I lower the cost? And so on, so on. So I was looking for something measurable, something tangible, and so on, so on. But that thing also had some cost associated with it. And that's usually how it goes. Okay. The problem is that these things are fairly big and fairly difficult. Maybe not for the managers, but on the people on the shop floor, in Gemba, frontline employees, this is a little bit hard. And so one of the things we did, we said, okay, we will accept all ideas, no matter what it is, as long as they meet our general criteria, and we need to make sure we can implement them fast. So this was our focus at that time. That means we could accept very, very tiny ideas because we have made sure that it's very easy to make them happen. Okay. This usually in most of the companies, I think, at least where we did research, this effort to make even small and tiny change is fairly big. What is interesting, in 2022, there was a book by Mr. Furuta, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, which basically says that acceptance of insignificant ideas, so small ideas and quick implementation, this is 90% of the success of systems like that. And maybe that's why it worked for us. I will show you a little bit what we did and what we did regarding this system, and I will also explain in a moment about also what I think works from the lean perspective. So in terms of Lean Shaman, what we do, we use the system not only for waste removal and things like that. We try to go and tackle all the problems related to lean, to productivity, and so on with the system. So we have, if I recall well, around 70 categories at the moment. And as long as you meet the category, so categories are benefits, as long as employee says, okay, it will deliver this benefit, we agree in principle to do it. Then it's a question, okay, does it make sense from financial perspective and so on, so on. But usually we don't refuse any ideas. And most of the ideas, and that was a big surprise for me, because I was a little bit afraid that our employees will start coming up with some crazy ideas and the crazy budgets. Actually, it turned out that the system works very well. They are using it to solve their problems. This is, you see the results from this year, where we go about number of improvements and engagement rate. You can't really use this data because the two systems were working manual and this automatic was working in the same time, but we see that the engagement of people is increasing. Now, what the system gave us, it basically gave us something what Cotter was saying in his books or article, I think it was in 2012, that you actually can change your company without disrupting it, without disrupting the performance engine. The performance engine is your operations. It has to be efficient. There's no change for making, no time for making changes. Every change is disruption. And if you can make these changes and improvements in the way so it doesn't disrupt this performance engine efficiency, then actually it's much easier to accept them. and they actually happens much faster pace. Let me just come back here for when you start this kind of programs, let's say improvements and so on, as we did. Normally you would go to production, you would move some machines and so on. You would do something, let's say, because you want to cut, let's say, production cost of some widget. We were not like that. We were completely opposite. We just went to the people who we knew are a little bit more enthusiastic about the whole idea, and we just tell them, okay, go and improve your work. Not improve, but solve your problems, okay? And we will help you with it. And these people actually infected the rest. And this is what you have seen, just to come back here, that our engagement rate is continuously growing. One of other things which was a little bit new for me, and was counterintuitive, and I even remember I had a lot of heated discussions with the management team about this, is that you need to accept really small, tiny improvements and ideas from your employees, and sometimes they will be crazy, but as long as they bring the benefit, and the decision if it brings benefit is on them, you need to accept it. Because as what I have learned, that as a CEO or as a general manager, you basically do not have knowledge of what is wrong. These people who are working day in and day out, they know this very well. And for them, making big changes is very difficult. But they have a lot of small ideas, small ways to improve the process. Sometimes it's ridiculously small, like moving one thing from one place to another. But if it helps them, you accept and you say this is improvement. What is important in that respect is that you don't pay for the improvements, because if at the moment you will start paying for them, like cash or even prices, if you pay the prices for specific improvement, the system stops working. Another thing, and this is also what we have seen, what I see a lot of managers did mistakes. We expect perfection from the employees. We put the system in place, we say, okay, now go and fix your problems, and they come with some silly things. And basically, if you do not leave the room to let them learn, it will never happen. It will die by itself. So it's, again, very important to accept very small improvements, and the smaller, the better. You just have to build yourself the system that can do it very fast. And that's difficult, but it's okay. We have our own system. It works for us. It is possible to do it. And one of the things, and that was, I don't know how it is in your companies, but at least in our company, it was very difficult at the beginning to move the decision, let's say, closer to the process. So what we decided in our system is built that way, that basically the person who is on the front line is the employee who works with specific item. He is responsible. He can decide, or she. However, there are other experts in the company who have to be consulted, who can veto the change, but the major driver comes from the people who are on the front line. And that really works for us. Again, this is a little bit counterintuitive, because it's not about them giving only ideas, they also give solutions. And if the solution is fairly okay, we just say, okay, we go with it. We don't say, okay, this could be done better and so on. We just fly with as it is suggested. That really helps us to get engagement from our people on the front line. One thing also in this kind of systems, what we have learned, that very often, that was also what we were doing at the beginning. We thought, okay, there's a lot of work that has to be done regarding the improvements, and usually it goes to the maintenance department. But this is really a big mistake. The maintenance department should not be involved at all. in the improvements. You need somebody like we have Adam, that's our CI specialist and handyman. He basically takes care of all of improvements. And if he cannot make it, then he goes to the maintenance department. That really is changing the game for the maintenance department and for speed of making the improvements. One thing which is also very important is the ownership. And so what we did, we divided the whole company in small units, and we give the ownership to people as close to the process as possible. It works for us, and it's really driving our success. If you want to know more about how we work with the system, please just go to LinkedIn. There's a website called Lean Shaman. We try to share there, our lessons learned from what we did. We'll try to commercialize this somehow, but at this stage, it's not, and we only use it internally. Now, let me, before I finish, because I think the time is running, I'm trying to navigate here. About Lean in general, because we went through really hell. I mean, Gosia knows, she was assisting us all the way. I think one of the first things to implement Lean in very difficult environments is to get a kind of a partner. I mean, a lot of people talk about Sensei. I don't know what is Sensei. For me, Sensei is Gosia, because I always use her help and knowledge to guide me through. But in any case, and Gosia, please help me here, if you want to become Lean, it's a painful culture change. It will not happen just by itself. Everyone has to go through this transition by himself. So you have 150 people, you have 150 changes that you actually have to do. And if it doesn't hurt, you are not becoming Lean. That's my experience. We thought we were doing Lean at the beginning. It was not painful. Once it got painful, we started becoming Lean.
Darek, since you called me to support you, let me comment. I'm very thankful to have been with you since the beginning on this Lean journey. And commenting on the pain, we actually saying a lot, a number of times in Lean, then you have to design things that they become painful once they fail. So you have a reason to do something about it. So I absolutely agree. If there is some pain, you act. If there is no pain, you become complacent and things don't change. You've had a lot of pain in the process, so a lot of change is required.
Yes, but it was really necessary. Okay, we haven't done this intentionally in many cases, but in some we did really intentionally by lowering the stocks and things like that. And it really helped us. It's because it helps you to see things. And the only thing is that it's not comfortable for employees. And that brings me actually to the next slide. Lean requires specific type of people, in my opinion. This is not the business, let's say, the strategy for everyone. We had some employees who left because they expected that the work will be easy, that is like a library. But even one of our line workers, one got so irritated, and he just tell all the people in the meeting, he says, listen, this is not library, this is Foundry, this is not how it works. Because Foundry is like big engine, one problem in one unit, it propagates everywhere. So we have usually a lot of problems. And to solve these problems, you have to act usually very fast. You have to be quick, but you also have to be cautious, and you have to work with a lot of people. You have to cooperate very well. So it's not for everyone. That's my opinion. It's for people who actually like challenges. I think that's okay. I think that's correct to say, because if you like the challenges, you enjoy this environment. Otherwise, it's better to cover everything with high inventory, a lot of money, and it will work, but you will not be Lean, that's for sure. Also, I think what is very important, and I'm running out of time, but yesterday I called a head of operations and I asked her, Yelica, why we didn't give up? Why does this still go? And she said, actually, yeah, because we never gave up. So even in the darkest times of the company, we never actually even thought about quitting with Lean. We believe that this is the right strategy, and we proceed with it. And sometimes it's discussions: shall we pay some money for training of people, or we fix some piece of equipment? And we say, okay, let's fix the equipment for free and spend the money on the training. This is the level of commitment we had, and we still have. And maybe that's why it works for us. And going to the end, you need a lot of patience. I came to Macedonia I moved from Switzerland to Macedonia, which was a big change for me. So you move from highly developed country to not so developed. There's a lot of things that you need to teach, you need to coach. But once you learn, you understand that your people want to do this. You just have to show them the way. It's easier to be patient. And we were extremely patient with some people, really extremely patient, and it worked. But it's not always easy, particularly for the manager who has to deliver the results. All right, I think that's all what I have today. I mean, it's in half an hour, it's very difficult to show how you build a Lean Foundry. If you would like to know more, please get in touch. You're more than welcome to come to Macedonia. It's a very nice country, sunny for most of the year, biggest part of the year. Gosia has been there. Good food, good wine,
yes.
good wine, and some crazy people trying to build a Lean business. So that's all from my side. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions that you would like to ask Dariusz? If there are, put them in the comments, and we are in the session, so if there are any questions, we can still answer them.
Maybe I can go out and see. Maybe I can see you finally.
Okay, guys. If there are none, thank you a lot for listening to Dariusz's story. He's welcome to talk to you offline as well. Thank you, and see you in other sessions.
Thank you. Bye-bye.